Hey you geeks! Wheel of Time Season 3 keeps on rolling with another exceptional episode, I must say. The Road to the Sphere, episode 4, was full of so many wonderful concepts in an ongoing single narrative, so rather than break it down by plot thread, because there's really only one, I'm going through concept by concept this time. Book spoiler warning through about book 5. There are, of course, things established in this episode that are going to be changing things after book 5, and we all can acknowledge that without mentioning it specifically. The look. This episode looked phenomenal, and it looked mostly like I imagined it from the books. When they were taking from book scenes, they were actually putting them in book settings, and it was just so great to see Roydion live on screen. We kind of saw it in the trailers, but still, it was magnificent. And the history back of the Aiel, the pillars, actually I thought they looked more like they did on the poster than they did in the episode, but this is not a complaint. This is just a, that's interesting kind of moment. Like, everything just looked so phenomenal. There were a couple downsizing, like the number of Chora trees and no Ogiers in the Age of Legends, but Lanfear's floating moon palace looked pretty much like I imagined it, especially when it exploded because she opened the bore. And just all of that is so great. Also, they had Yosha playing all of Rand's ancestors, and some of those old guy makeups, like, had me doing double takes. So this is a great experience to see Yosha get to play the main character for an episode. Yay! More, please. In speaking with you guys in the comment section after last video, please keep that up. I enjoy it. Just to help me refine my thoughts, if nothing else. One such refinement is that Amazon really, in the first 2 seasons, wasted the details that Robert Jordan gave them. This isn't really anything new to say to the conversation, but now they're adding them in, and some fans have been conditioned just not to look for such details because they weren't there before. So this whole conversation between Maureen and the Wise Ones reads kind of a meta to me.
You're very comfortable answering questions we have no interest in the answers to.
And Maureen Sedai is speaking for Amazon admin when she says she doesn't care about the Aiel details. But the Aiel do, and the fandom does. So Maureen Sedai, like Amazon admin, I imagine, has quickly learned in this episode how important those little details are. Now, of course, the show going out of its way to include these details means that they're going to get tripped up on them because it's the first time they're doing it. And again, I'd rather them get tripped up on little details than exclude the details and make a completely different story. The sword. They talked more about Tam as a Blade Master, which almost has me hopeful that maybe he will get a dramatic entry to help Perrin in the Two Rivers arc, or is this he's not here so we have to keep talking about him kind of chatter. Either way, Rand finally talks about the flame and the void. Like, the detail that was supposed to be established in book 1 has arrived, and it's here. Its rather late arrival has me concerned that Rand is just not going to have enough time this season to learn about Saidin. More on that later. This isn't a complaint about this episode because this episode is paced perfectly, but it's a concern still. With Rand and Lan being so gauche as to use swords so near Roydion, I found it fitting that Avienda would be the one to correct them about how peaceful they should be outside the City of Peace by challenging Lan to a duel. I mean, they need to establish that she is in fact a warrior woman before they go and take those spears away. And they did, in authentic book fashion, I must say. Which brings us to the edge of Rhuidean, where Couladin and Savannah of the Shido are more than happy to point out that the Tardad have brought wetlanders to their holy city. I wonder what could possibly go wrong with those two, especially with Savannah sporting a most over-the-top headdress that is both authentically Aiel and just so far from reality. Like, that hat says Savannah in a way that I could not have anticipated, but yet totally works. So, I like it. The Sphere. Having Rand and Moraine enter Rhuidean together is a really great way to compare and contrast the different roles of the Dragon and Saidin, along with the Aes Sedai of the Third Age and Saidar. Him being of the past, her being for the future. Like, they finally get that balancing act together with Rand and Moraine this episode, and I love it. Although since Moraine is filling Matt's shoes, she's the one who gets the bit of all the extra knives, and that's great, except for the part where they unsheath them to stab them into the ground in the worst blade maintenance ever. But that's like, this isn't an Amazon problem. Any adaptation would have done something stupid like that. This is Hollywood. But Moraine, being Moraine, is going to do a bit more than just go to the rings to learn about the future like a good potential wise one candidate. No, she's got to snoop around the magic tree and find a white magical sphere. Now, they say the sphere is Sarkarnam? Sakarman? Okay, I'm an audiobook reader, so I recognize words as Michael Kramer or Kate Redding says them. And the show ain't following the Kramer-Redding pronunciation guide. Not that their pronunciations were super consistent anyway. So I don't know if it's fair to say if they changed Sakarman, as was mentioned in books 4 or 5 by Lanfear, from a male sa'angreal to a female sa'angreal, or if this is a slightly differently named object that is a female sa'angreal. Either way, it seems to be taking up the female half of the Chodan Call, where Kalendor is now taking up the male half of the Chodan Call. These were, of course, established in book 2 of the series, but had gone by without mention in season 2 of the show. So, course correction that I think this is a good change for Endgame to kind of simplify a few things. Like, there are things that can stay the same and continue on Robert Jordan's mission of balance and trust between the genders and sexes, but also without getting a bit too overcomplicated. So while long-term this makes acceptable changes, I'm now a bit concerned that Lanfear is seeking Sakarna, Moraine has Sakarna, and the two are apparently fated to duel to the death sometime soon. Does this mean that once again Rand is going to have a diplomatic role in the finale, while Moraine does the most of the channeling part against Lanfear? Unless Lanfear shows up next episode with a Gleeman or equivalent in tow, I think I'm gonna just have to brace for that change and accept it, that Rand is taking the lead. Rand got a whole episode to tell his own story this season. Like, this is pretty satisfying. Like, this overall would bring me to an 8, even if they do the Moraine-centric finale. So, if they do a Rand-centric finale, I'll go to 11, but an 8 is far and above what any prior season finale has been for me. So, let me know down in the comments, what would be your excitement level for a Moraine-centric finale? So while I accept that it's completely in keeping with Moraine to find objects of power, especially in the TV show, and pocket them, I'm a bit annoyed that she walked into a Tirangrial with a Saw-Angrial in her pocket. Like, this may seem like a nitpick, but Robert Jordan spent so much page time talking about how Aes Sedai feared mixing of objects of power, and this is his reason for why women went through the arches or the rings in the buff, but the show had been pretty clear coming up to this point that no, women can remain clothed during these sequences because they're smart enough not to bring objects of power into Tirangrials. And what do we see? Moraine bringing an object of power into a Tirangrial. This is one of those details that I am so happy that they've included all of these little things, but adding them together, 2 and 2 landed at 5 on this one. It's fine, but also, dudes. The rings. Even though Moraine brought a Saw-Angrial into the rings, what she saw there seems to be very in keeping with what Robert Jordan had her see, and what Robert Jordan had Egwene see, and what Robert Jordan had Rand himself see in the iconic flicker, flicker, flicker scene. Now, I just love how the camera rolls us through all the possible weavings of the wheel, starting with several possible beginnings, as there are no definitive beginnings on the Wheel of Time, and then rotating us through to several possible endings of the Wheel of Time, because there are no endings either. And I do like how Rand does run into Aviendha after he comes out of the post and her out of the rings. We get to see her reaction of being changed and distraught by what she saw, though we don't know what it is. We can get an idea of what happened to Moraine, but we can also see how she now can find it in her heart to respect Rand for the equivalent but different trauma that he has just went through as well. Since the books were not as infatuated with Moraine's character arc, her post-Rhuidean changes were much more subtle because Rand doesn't understand women anyway. So I'm interested in how her time in the rings will be displayed as changing her character on screen. The road. And now we get the true flicker effects. Rand deserves a flicker while Moraine has a weaving. It's a great comparative but different way of expressing their journeys. This is the kind of stuff Robert Jordan was all about. I love it. I also think it was clever that they gave the Jonduin flashback in the Pillars instead of exposition fairy wise ones later, because we are learning Rand's story. Rand in the books, like, he steps through the Pillars and it's kind of like, ooh, magic school bus history trip with a mystery that wasn't emotionally traumatic right off the bat, but the show ain't got time for that. So they just need to smack Rand with all the feels right at the beginning to let us know that we're all in for a crazy wild ride. Along the way, we meet Llewellyn, Rand with his friends that look oddly similar to Matt and Perrin, but also oddly similar to Merry and Pippin in the back of Gandalf's cart with the dragon firework. Like, yeah, that looks the same to me. Now, unlike the Game of Thrones tie-in where we know Jordan was working to be specifically different from Martin, we also know that Jordan was big on taking the concepts that Tolkien started and bringing them to a more politically nuanced and disturbing conclusion, which is exactly what the Llewellyn sequence is. We start with him full of hope and cheerfulness with the great tree, and then it ends with him getting kicked out of the wagons by his mother and him covering his face. I do like the Hollywood tidbit of saying, we're gonna cover our faces, and then they don't cover their faces when they kill, but I guess traumatic mommy moment will ensure the covering of faces for all future generations. Seeing the Aiel leave Paradisen was visually stunning, of course, but what we missed in the flashbacks that Amazon didn't have time to show us is what Jordan really excelled at in showing what people value by their normalized behavior. Sure, he had characters take oaths and uphold them more or less, but also the Aes Sedai, who are known for taking their 3 solemn oaths, are also notorious for trying to worm their way out of them. Whereas the Way of the Leaf, as held by the Gen Aiel in the Age of Legends, was such a deep cultural concept that them taking a formal oath to a sister kind of is ridiculous because that is who they are. But of course, Amazon ain't got time for that, and it's very clear to the viewers now that they took an oath, they broke it, and now they feel rather conflicted on that topic, hence all the dead bodies. So, yeah, it different, but it works. The dragons. Backing up, we do have Ruark return to the group and talk to Rand about the dragons. I think I was partially annoyed at him staying to bury the bodies last episode because they made it sound like it would take forever, and Ruark as a strong man, it should not have taken forever, and we would go into Rodion without getting this conversation. So happy to be wrong. Ruark can in fact bury a body in a short amount of time and tell Rand about them being the people of the dragon. Thus, Rand is getting that information to plot his attack on the Stone of Tyr, hopefully in Season 4. The flashbacks did sort of skirt the whole issue of how the Aiel were at one point just assumed to be the servants of Lews Therin Telamon, the dragon, the madman who broke the world. And I'm kind of sad that we missed that flashback, but we did get the flashback of Lanfear opening the boar, which makes sense because the show loves Lanfear, but also kind of doesn't make sense. So, the seals used to, in the book, seal the boar. In Season 2, they were remade to have sealed the Forsaken. That's fine. But now, what, if anything, has been sealing the boar since the Age of Legends? Now, I wonder if Amazon is just going to keep it simple, stupid, and just say the boar has been open since Lanfear opened it in the Age of Legends, and that Rand, as the Dragon Reborn, needs to do what Lews Therin could not, and close the darn thing. It's simple enough that I think Amazon could even pull it off. Thus, it has the added benefit of simplifying so much page time that Robert Jordan develops the nuance of the seals and the level of apocalypse that the Wheel of Time gets to in the later books. So, we'll see how it goes. Maybe they'll just retcon the seals again, like they retconned Loyal's death at the end of Season 1 to have him living in Season 2. Let me know where you think they're going to take it, or maybe they just haven't thought that far yet, which is also a definite possibility. But I'm going to be cautiously optimistic that they will find some way to pull it off, since they did remember to kill Couladin at the right point of the pillars to perfectly underline, as Robert Jordan did, what part of the Aiel history the Shido have a problem with. Because the fact that the Aiel kept the Way of the Leaf is revelatory to Rand, but murderous to Muradin, is kind of an important point that they need to carry forward, and I hope the show does. Now Rand has armed dragons and trauma and an excellent sense of timing to, I guess, save Moraine and arrive with the Dawn just in time to be named Kar Karn, With Couladin and Savannah waiting outside, I'm sure the Shido will be happy to hear that he saw their male relative die and did nothing, and that they now have to follow him. Yeah, there has been a leaked photo already of Rand and Couladin standing with their dragons in El Kerdal, and I'm very curious to see, is a Gleeman going to show up next episode, or is Lanfear going to take matters into her own hands? Because she's show Lanfear and she does things like that. Let me know your thoughts for what you liked about this episode, what you're looking forward to next week, or do you just have no idea what I'm talking about and say something like, cool. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks for watching. Bye!